Welcome back. This is K24 this morning, looking at the big stories of the day right across your dailies, but also talking about the elusive two-thirds gender rule. How do we fix that moving forward? We're 10 years in the running for this one, yet still not yet out of the woods. How do we fix that? And even the bigger question, some people are saying, no, we don't need that fixed right now. That's not, a big issue. Some people say that we want to get your views. You can send us a message on WhatsApp, our WhatsApp number scrolling at the bottom of the screen. Let's have those up very quickly. There we go. Jeff, good morning. The women of this country have no will to implement the gender rule. They have so far behaved like it's a favor from men, but they forget that though this rule may apply both ways, the women are the receiving end now. Why have our mothers, wives, and sisters never resolved to reject any appointment, whichever on condition that gender rule is implemented? Thomas Angong talking from Lamu. Okay. So rejection of appointments on just a matter of principle. Why haven't they done that? Let's look at another message. It's time to change the constitution. We want to feel included in government as Kenyans. What has worked should be strengthened, and what is not working done away with. We want more tough action against those who are corrupt through constructional amendments. As Kenyans, we are in progress, and so we need more changes that will shape our future. I support the change of the constitution. Look at the Senate. They are struggling with politics of their own future, yet Kenyans want more money. They should have come up with a formula, but their masters have directed them to do what they want. The Senate has lost its track. Okay. Keep those messages coming in on WhatsApp. Of course, WhatsApp number scrolling at the bottom of the screen. If you want to get us on Twitter, you can get me at @IamJeffMote or at K24TV. Before the break, we're talking about, that's the political goodwill needed to shepherd this process through the August House. Madam Elachi, when you think about it, there are other bills that have been brought, to the floor of the House, some of them controversial, like the Security Amendments Bill, and they found a way to whip members into line to make this, get to the end. We've done this severally with the two-thirds gender rule, and yet it seems like there's a whipping problem. Why is that?
Well, I think the aspiration of those who believe in gender is very, what will I say, in Kenya. When you look at the different East African countries, I think in Kenya we do worse than any other country. And the most unfortunate part is that when you look at the days of Mama Phoebe Asiu, the first gender bill that came on the floor of the House, and then you come to Beth Mugo, then now today, not just 10 years, we are talking of now more than 20-something years that we've been talking about this. Yet, the same bills were picked by our sisters in Uganda and in Tanzania, and they've achieved, and they've gone beyond us. Then we come in and we bring in a very progressive constitution, and just because we don't want to really deal with the matter of gender, because I'm sorry to say, it's like we've reached a point where men feel if women take over this country, then we will never come back to power, because they will see progressive that they have never seen. And therefore, we deny a formula. That is in 2010 when we come in with the new constitution. And now we've been talking of this formula, looking at even Article 100, trying to think, do we use that? You find still in Parliament, we are still fighting and asking ourselves, is that going to help the women? So it's like in Kenya, it's like we are helping the women.
Right.
But when it comes now to real service for people, then women are there to do service for people.
Right.
And that's why I started by saying, in Kenya, the decision of political to women becomes like as if we are being given. But when we fight for it, again, you are fought so hard by the same men to realize that, oh, a woman is more powerful and will show beyond, will try her best to show beyond what we have achieved and make it better.
Right.
And that is the challenge we face. So for me, for us to talk about the numbers in Parliament, the only issue we have now as women, we must fight through the BBI to ensure we get this formula. And the formula has to be very explicit. Not a formula again to come and sit down and start saying, oh, so how do we know? Because we've seen what the men have done. We've seen, you can see the numbers in the House, but when the Speaker puts the vote, people walk out. So even if you're saying you're going to whip them, You can't force them.
There's no one
so
to
the
win.
best way to force is to bring back the amendment into the BBI and ensure we have a very clear amendment. And if we want to go the South African way, the better. Let's make party list. But you see, the men won't agree with that because they will realize that now we will be like a 50-50. So those are some of the challenges. The other question we just need to ask is, and I want to say, even if we are talking about young people, people with disability, all of this needs to have just one formula. That formula has to ensure across the country, every woman feels that if I walk into a political arena or in a political party, I have the same rights as my brother who is in that political party. But I know the other challenge they face is sometimes, but which we are trying as women nowadays, that you walk into a party and they'll say you need to contribute. Women are contributing. It depends whether I'm contributing money, I'm contributing my time to work for the party, and many other contributions that we do. So the matter of saying men are the ones who bring money on the table, today women bring money on the table.
Let me get Maria in on this one as well, because as you saw, there was that WhatsApp message as we came back on the second half, and the viewer was talking about the fact that why shouldn't the women currently in office, whether state appointments or elected, take a principled stand on this as well and make sure that the scene is ungovernable, so to speak, until this issue is addressed and this actually remedied. So they're conveniently silent and then come out when there's political capital and then disappear to the woodworks again. What's your take on that?
I think that's an unfair assessment on women because, first of all, to get where we are today, we've really fought for that space. And what the space that you fight for, you must keep. You cannot cede that ground because once it goes, getting it back is also difficult. So it's not advisable to go in that decision. And also, the decisions are not made in the boardrooms. The decisions are made in Parliament. And we must take this back, really, to Parliament. Because remember, since 2012, when the AG first sought an advisory opinion at the Supreme Court, subsequently in 2015, there was the Toily case, and the CJ, gave direction about the implementation of this gender rule. And Parliament extended, remember, for the first time, they extended the time by a year, and then now tried again to extend. So now we're in court. The CJ currently is looking at 6 petitions to dissolve Parliament. 6, one of which has been filed by the Law Society of Kenya. And I think for me, particularly, this is a fantastic time to have these petitions before the CJ because we're celebrating the Katiba. It forces us now to face this matter head on. When you have a situation where you're forcing Parliament to actually look at this issue critically, because you're basically threatening them that you're going to dissolve Parliament. And the CJ has a fantastic opportunity now to solve this issue and advise the President, actually, I would say just advise for dissolution because then you will see the goodwill come out. When it comes to pay hikes, people speak in one voice in Parliament, increasing emoluments or pension, never mind the impact on the economy. But when it comes to the implementation of the gender rule, and I want to categorically state here that gender is not women. Gender is both men and women. And it is provided for in Article 27 of the Constitution. And it is clear that we are supposed to take legislative and other solutions to ensure that we have equal opportunities to both men and women. When we start talking about equal representation, if you look at my society, which I belong to, the Law Society of Kenya, 3 of the elected council members, including the president, are men. 3. The rest are women. What does that say for an institution such as Law Society of Kenya? Kenya, as a country, should look at the LSK and actually realize that women can actually get elected. And where does this go? It goes to the root of the matter. What platforms do you create that enable this particular woman to get elected? And you're not so much focusing on affirmative action only. But when it comes to Parliament and other bodies, we always look at women or the gender issue as an affirmative issue. It need not be that way. We need to empower our political parties so that at the point where we are actually forwarding lists for nomination, like Ms. Elachi has said, we ensure gender is properly represented. We are also losing out on a very critical base here, special interest groups. There's been an attempt by the National Assembly to clump women with the special interest groups. That should not be the case. There are equal genders here, then special interest groups. So the special interest groups should also not lose out in this discussion because they end up getting lost. Women and youth become clumped together, whereas we should not. We should be talking about equal representation, equal opportunities, and then try and redress the special interest groups, those who've been historically disenfranchised, to come up so that we're talking about everybody being represented at the table. Okay. But this notion that, that we have to have tokenism and affirmative action as the only solution is wrong. LSK did it. FIDA took a position. I'm also a member of FIDA, just like Ms. Nyokabi, and said, vote Adada. What that did is create a very big momentum for women within the society to actually say, why not? Why don't we support our own? And the result was very clear. And let's talk about that because, Priscilla, I'll bring you in on this one as well because as we see, there's a lot of talk of dissolution of parliament if this threshold isn't met. This, of course, is in the corridors of justice already. But when you talk to other male parliamentarians, they say that this isn't feasible, it can't happen. The ramifications of this are too deep and very wide-reaching to dissolve parliament. Do you think it's possible to go down the dissolution route if this threshold isn't met?
I think without preempting what the Chief Justice is going to do, the idea is not to dissolve Parliament. The idea is to push Parliament to pass the law that is required to pass. So that, even the Chief Justice, because what has happened to Parliament, they've been given time, the Supreme Court gave them time, that time was extended. The Chief Justice and judges have given them time in many of the petitions that have been filed. There have been calls for a bill to be tabled. So that I like how the Speaker has interpreted it. Can we have an active bill in Parliament before the Chief Justice makes a decision? So that the push should now be how fast can we move. Article 100 that the CIOC, the committee led by Honorable Jeremiah Kioni, is looking at, helps fight a distance on the special interest groups and their entry into elections. But it does not address the two-thirds gender rule in its finality, because the two-thirds gender rule requires space to be created in Parliament for the other gender to then occupy. And one of the other things that has been very resisted is having the two-thirds requirement in the party candidates list, that we should start with the candidates. Every party that is going to be participating in the general election should nominate 290 candidates to run for parliamentary seats. They should make sure that in their list of 290, at least 97, which is the two-thirds, not more than two-thirds gender rule, of the opposite gender. If we come to the gubernatorial, again, where we are doing very poorly, we only had 3 women elected governors in the last election. Etla Boso, Governor Waiguru, and Governor Ngilu, and the Senate as well, only 3. So that even in the candidates list for Senate and for governor, the two-thirds gender rule is implemented. But there is no other way. A bill will need to hit the floor of Parliament very quickly for that bill to be addressed. Because even if the Chief Justice advises that Parliament should be dissolved, that does not resolve the matter of two-thirds. It is just that you elect a new Parliament that comes and now passes the law. But if the new Parliament is caught up by the same patriarchy as the old Parliament, then we are not making progress as a country. The progress now is on constitutional amendments that resolve this matter. And I'm hoping that the Speaker will advise Parliament in that direction. Some bills are existing, the Duale one that we had proposed earlier. The Speaker's own views before the BBI, that Senate should be 1 man, 1 woman elected. We can get a bill now quickly, either supporting more elections or going by the top-up, which was the Duale one, and have Parliament fast-track a law like that so that the Chief Justice does not call for dissolution of Parliament. And the Chief Justice doesn't have a lot of time because the Chief Justice doesn't leave office quickly. So I think that the clock is ticking. We need to see this matter addressed. But I like the conversation we are having, even about the LSK, because it is indeed true that we have more women elected in LSK. But you will find that we have not broken the glass ceiling. There has only been 1 woman president of the Law Society of Kenya. So it is becoming okay for us to get to a certain level. But what we need to do is get to every level that men and women are equal. Men get their rights, women get their rights. That is the society that we want to get into. And if you look at teenage pregnancies, gender-based violence, women economic empowerment, women in business, women in trading, we are still very, very far off. I was very deliberate in my dressing today to pick up Buy Kenya, Wear Kenya, Build Kenya, the Vivo company that is owned by a lady. We need to move women economic empowerment. So let's not just see the politics, because every time we just see National Assembly and Senate, we ourselves, and Elachi knows this, we also get accused. Ati mnatafuta viti zenu. Now, hatutafuti viti zetu, tunatafuta viti za all women. Because when women are in the decision making, hata kama ni kwa PTA, Parents Teachers Association, even if it is a head teacher and a deputy head teacher, there is a value, a mother and a father, Adam and Eve. That is what we are looking for. So it's not just our seats, it is seats for all women and women to express full potential. Because I've seen even in the debate online, people say, na hii 2/3 ni ya nini, hata itusaidii. These 2/3 help us. Women across the country will be allowed to get to their full potential.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because I want to bring it back to studio. With the nature of politics, Madam Elachi, as you said, there's nothing given. You have to go out there and take it. And the problem with the narrative that we have right now is that women are asking for this. They're not going out there and demanding it and taking what's theirs, what they deserve. How do we change this narrative in the sense that it seems like you're going to ask for something, and in politics, no one gives. You go and take.
Yeah,
you especially know that. How do you deal with that?
Well, I think in the BBI, we are not going to just sit. Mm-hmm. We're going to take. Mm-hmm. And we need to promise our men we are going to take it. Right. From the BBI, we are not. Because I think it's not that we don't know how to go and take. I think what women do, they believe you can sit on the table, discuss, and agree on an agreement. Mm-hmm. But we've realized that does not work in Kenya. In fact, Kenyans hate you when you're a person who discusses on the table. Right. They believe in you when I think you are crazy, and they now start feeling, okay, oh yeah, you can do it. So I've realized you want to help this agenda, we just have to be there. We must talk to all the political party leaders, but at the same time, we must go back. We must sit down, if it's with LSK, and have a good team also. Mm-hmm. And that team should not look at the individualistic interests that we have. I think as a team, as women, if we just sit, like the days Martha Karua and Ngilu, the way they used to sit and just say, whatever the men will speak, because they'll say everything. This is our agenda, and we are focused to achieve this. I think that way we will achieve. Okay. So it's time for us also to leave the sideshows and who is this and how does she look, and just focus. What's our agenda? Our agenda is to achieve this. I know we can push it. And as women, we can push the country to a standstill if we want. Right. And I want to tell women, this is the time. After looking at COVID and what we've gone through, I think it's women and children and young people who have suffered most. And going beyond post-COVID, then women must take over for us to see the change we want to see in our country, and even to bring back the healing that we know many people are stressed with all this. I'll give you an example. Look at Kikomba, for example, and I want to thank the president for indeed just coming in and making things work, because majority were young people and women who were going to suffer. But you see, when you come up with a policy and you don't look at that policy, the way it, first of all, affects different families, and you don't even do a data analysis to know this is a business, yes. It gives you 13 billion annually, and you're about to kill it, but you don't have a process of where you're moving. For me, that's where I was like, the first time I listened to Kikomba people, and I said, we have a problem in our country. We look at things very narrowly without seeing through. So I just want to thank the president and CS Matiang'i for just finalizing the process. Okay. And I hope now our people in Kikomba, our young people who are desperate. Because imagine, Jeff, in Kikomba, you have a person who is importing in the goods. Then you have the retailer. Then you have those who just come and pick a few, they sell, they bring you, and they get a share. Then you have the young people who brings in security, young people who are the loaders. I mean, it's a
whole
chain
economy
of 1 million and million plus people. So when we are talking of Katiba 10, all I would wish the team legacy of the president, because now it's his legacy chain, that let us look at everything in a manner that looks at what is the effect. And mostly women are the ones who are getting that effect.
Okay.
And that is what we are going to fight for. That let us look at Kenya today. Who are the ones who are standing in families today? Women. And therefore, even if we talk about the political, the 2/3 gender, we are not just saying 2/3 gender in parliament. We are saying we want to see 2/3 gender from the deep down at the rural, the village, the nyumba kumi coming up.
All the way up.
All the way up.
Okay, we have around 3 minutes to go before we wind up this conversation. I want to come to Maria on this, because even as we talk about, as we began the show, this being the constitutional moment for change, that narrative has also been muddied with, search for, positions in government, expanding executive, building political careers and jobs for others. And such critical issues like 2/3 is now really low in the tier of, this particular conversation. Are you optimistic that we actually achieve this, even as we try and get this constitutional change now?
I think we should focus on tangibles and what we can achieve in the shortest time possible. It's unfortunate as a country that we are fixated on personalities as opposed to processes and institutions. And we should know that the state and government outlives individuals, so that we are not burdening the taxpayer with additional positions that they first of all don't understand and that don't make sense to them. Like you rightly pointed out, now people are thinking about survival, the economy. I mean, when you come to me and start talking to me about a position, I will wonder whether you really have my best interest at heart as Mwananchi. So at the moment, people are focused on service delivery. They want to know that the road from their shamba to where they can get to market is actually functional. They want to know that they can actually be able to open their business tomorrow. They're wondering about rents. People who've taken out mortgages to buy properties and to rent out these properties are wondering what is going to happen to them. Where is the government bailout? But what we keep hearing from the political class is processes such as BBI, Punguza Mzigo, and reforming the Katiba. But have we really implemented the Katiba in such a way that it makes sense to me economically, as a business person, as an employer? Many employers today have been forced to lay off employees. There are thousands of formal sector jobs and informal sector jobs that have gone away because of the pandemic and the economic downturn across the world. What are we doing to address that? And that's why I support when the President Uhuru Kenyatta talked about less politicking and more service delivery. Because at the national level, you may be able to afford to politic, but at the level in mashinani, Mwananchi really doesn't care about those things. They want somebody who is actually going to tell them, this is the money that is available for us, and this is how we're spending it, and this is the effect it will have on you as an individual. So we need to be more inclusive. The political class, yes, the constitution is a political process. That's how it was birthed. And politicians are elected to represent us, but they should also reflect what is actually happening on the ground and realize that Mwananchi is actually interested in living from, instead of from hand to hand, be able to plan long term. Okay.
We have a minute to go. I want Priscilla Nyakabi to have a final word as we close this conversation. As a commissioner of the National Gender and Equality Commission, what's your parting shot this morning, even as we round up this debate on what has really been elusive for quite a while? What's your parting shot on that?
Thank you, thank you. My parting shot is that leadership matters. It is true that there are very many important issues on the agenda, but it starts with leadership. It is in the National Assembly and Senate where critical decisions on agriculture, on health, on water, resources are shared in the National Assembly and the Senate and in positions of leadership. So that once you are missing from there, then your lives are going to be affected in a very, very big way. And that is why the start must be in politics and the start must be in the constitution and in the organs that we are speaking. And you know, one other agenda for women, which we don't get a lot of time to converse, is actually Article 43, the right to health, right to water, right to education, the right to housing, the right to food, and the right to social security. So we don't just converse for 2/3. At the table, we also fight for the Article 43 implementation. And the BBI is going to do a lot of that balancing. But it is indeed a parting shot that men and women matter, and men and women should be in decision making. And it is very, very important that decision making is done for the nation with representation, including of the young people, of persons with disability. It's broader inclusion. And that is the quest we are still on. And what we are asking about the elusive gains, I think in another show, we will not be having elusive gains. Those gains will now be in our hands. We will now be preparing for the election when the constitution template has been set better. They will not be elusive for too long.
Okay.
So we are looking forward to you changing the title.
Okay, thank you so much for that. That's how we leave this conversation at this particular point. Thank you so much for making time this morning, Priscilla Nyakabi, Commissioner at the National Gender and Equality Commission. In studio, former Nairobi County Speaker, Beatrice Elachi, thank you so much for making time this morning. Maria Bandeka, Advocate of the High Court, thank you so much for making time this morning. Pertinent conversation I had right here, and as you've heard, it's been promised, it won't be elusive for too long. You'll have those tangible gains, and next time we have this conversation, it's going to be a totally different angle you'll have right here. Of course, your conversation and input on this, absolutely invaluable. Keep them coming in at I am Jeff Mote or at K24 TV. And if you haven't gotten yourself a copy of your People Daily, you can get it straight to your phone, only 10 shillings. And the number that you need, *550 *4#. Dial that number and get yourself a copy of your People Daily. It's brought to you by the People Daily and Safaricom. We draw the curtains on the newspaper review at this particular point. You take a short break, and we're back on the other side as we get interactive. Good morning.